Hello and welcome to today's edition of Frightfully Forgotten Horror Movies. And what are we drinking today, Justin?
We're drinking Edgar Deems Thirst Quencher.
It's quenching my thirst. Today we're going to be talking about Roman Polanski's 1976 psychological thriller, The Tenant. He also did, of course, Rosemary's Baby, The Ninth Gauge, just to mention a couple of movies. It is based on the book by Roland Topper. This movie stars Roman Polanski. He plays the title role. It also stars Isabelle Adjani, and she's in another really strange psychological thriller called Possession, which is just insane. She's also in Werner Herzog's remake of Nosferatu.
Roman Polanski's character, Trelkovsky, wants to rent an apartment. While he's looking around, she tells him the woman that was in the apartment before jumped out the window and attempted suicide. You want to come over and see? As they're looking over, she's all
forcing him, like,
yeah, come see
to the balcony.
Look closer. You can see the glass too, where she fell through. She hasn't died yet, though. When he goes and talks to this old miserable bastard landlord, well, 5,000 is just a little too much, you know. Can maybe do 4,000. There's not even a toilet.
Yeah. He doesn't budge one bit.
No, but needless to say, he gets the apartment anyways. For some weird reason, he goes and visits her in the hospital. Her friend Stella appears too to visit Simone. She's all bandaged up, and except her eyes, and her mouth is open too, and she's got a tooth missing. All she does is stare at them and very unsettling, yeah. It gives you shivers almost. Yeah. They go to the movie theater actually and see Enter the Dragon. She kind of gropes around and he puts his arm around her, starts feeling around. There's some weird guy behind him and he notices that too. And he kind of stops. He phones the hospital. It turns out she's died. So he has the apartment, so he starts to move in. The next day, he goes to this little corner coffee shop. By chance, he ends up sitting in the same spot that Simone used to sit in. He asks for a coffee, and he's like, "Are you sure? Simone always had hot chocolate." He asks for a certain brand of smokes. They only have Marlboros, and those are the ones that Simone smoked.
Now that he's moved into the apartment, he wants to have a little, housewarming party. And they get a little kind of rowdy, they're drinking. His asshole friend takes a leak in the sink.
Well, there's no toilet. What the hell do you want me to do?
Better sink than the floor.
Yeah, better not take a shit.
So then the next morning, he's cleaning up after this party, runs into the landlord, automatically starts giving him shit about all the noise last night. This is kind of like a continuing theme going forward, that he can't make any noise. When he goes back up the stairs from taking out the garbage, all the little scraps that he knew he had dropped on the way down are suddenly gone. He moves a wardrobe kind of around and finds a hole in the wall and pulls out this cotton, and then behind this cotton is a tooth. Right out of his balcony is directly across from the window for the bathroom. So he can just see everyone going in there taking a shit. But he notices that whenever anyone's in there, they just stand there and stare.
Yeah.
For hours. He starts hearing knocks at the door and opens it up. There's nobody there. He goes to church. He's listening to the sermon, and he starts getting all panicky and freaking out, and that's run out of the church. And he has this episode where he believes that he's being strangled by one of his neighbors, and then he kind of comes out of frame, and you realize that it's him strangling himself. He even gets robbed. The landlord complains to him, "Oh, you're making all that noise," and he's like, "I was being robbed! I was not home! They stole my television!"
I feel bad for him.
You do feel bad for him. One night he wakes up in bed, goes to the mirror, he's wearing makeup. This dress that he had found that had previously belonged to Simone Schul. Goes to a wig shop. Just before he leaves the shop, he kind of puts it on. He starts just sitting at this chair at night in the dark, in Simone's dress, in makeup, in this wig, and just stares out the window. First you hear it, like a basketball. And then it's getting higher, and then it comes past the balcony window, and it's his head.
Yeah, with the wig on.
Head with his wig on. You'll have to keep watching the movie if you want to find out what's going to happen. Very bizarre ending.
Yeah.
You kind of forced to put your own spin on it, which is very cool.
It's a typical 70s slow burn movie. More story based than anything. You got to put your own spin on things. This movie seems very Kubrick-ish. You can see a little bit of 2001 Space Odyssey. I do anyways, but with the end, right? Yeah. Nobody knows what that ending was really all about. Yeah.
I see more Shining in this movie. Isolation and the madness, and again the weird ending.
The music is great in this movie too. And it starts right away. There's that theme. It sounds very World War II Jewish ghetto. It's like a bit of accordion.
The clarinet definitely has to do with Polanski's past.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
It's music that you feel sorry.
Yeah.
For.
Yeah, and you do feel sorry for the main character in this. The main theme perfectly embodies the character. You see Polanski, and then you hear the music, and you're like, oh man, what a perfect fit. They just go hand in hand, right? One thing about this movie I kept thinking could be a comedy at any point in the movie. Because there's always little bits of humor that if they were turned up just a little bit, it could totally be like a comedy of errors. Just the plot alone, a guy who's got to live in this apartment without making a damn sound.
That's so Peter Sellers.
It could be such a comedic plot. I can just picture Peter Sellers being in this apartment doing his best not to make a sound, but just disaster happening
all
everywhere.
This stuff smashes. This movie touches on a lot of themes.
What defines you?
Yeah, there's a human theme.
Yeah, as a person, what defines you? And at what point do you stop becoming yourself? He's got that line where he's all pissed drunk and he's going on that big spiel. Well, if you were to cut off my head, what would you call it? Me and my head or me and my body? Even themes of sexuality. Simone Schul briefly mentioned that she didn't like men.
Yeah.
Implying that she's a lesbian. Trelkovsky, he kind of befriends Stella, but he never really gets with her. Doesn't even want her sexually, more wants her as a friend. So even he doesn't seem to really like the opposite sex. And then he becomes the opposite sex. Being transgender even can kind of coming into this movie a bit,
right.
Which is very ahead of its time. The setting of this movie is very cool. His apartment is just kind of sad.
It is.
Kind of like him.
It's very run down.
Yeah, all run down and there was that one scene where he's already been told not to make any noise, and he turns on the water tap, and it's you can hear the pipes, and you can tell even that's making him a bit oh, that's too loud. He can't even run the water. I have to be quiet.
You can't have the music up too loud.
That is just taken to the complete extreme in this movie.
Well, it helps to add to his paranoia.
It makes you think someone with complete paranoia and OCD, how would they react in a real life? I gotta be quiet. It might be almost similar to him.
You go crazy, and always having to worry about what other people are thinking about you.
Yeah, this is not strict horror, but definitely has horror elements, and it's a great psychological thriller.
Yeah, it allows you to put your own spin on things, and that can be whatever you want it to be, right?
And it's definitely a movie that you are always kind of thinking about after you've seen it. Always kind of analyzing it. It just kind of sticks to your brain and
I know.
You're always working on it, always trying to figure it out. So if you're a fan of, again, any psychological horror, if you like The Shining, even the Sentinel, which we covered a couple of weeks ago.
The Conversation, I think, that's definitely a slow burn movie.
Yeah.
The payoff at the end kind of thing.
Yeah. So, if you're in the mood for an odd movie that's going to take your brain and like spaghetti, right? You put the fork in and you start twisting the spaghetti. That's kind of what it does to your brain.
Have a good conversation over after. This is the movie for you.
Yeah, so definitely check out The Tenant.
If you cut off my head, what do I say? Me and my head or me and my body?